Weblipsky. I'm from Audubon, Camden County. By trade, I'm a marketing exec helping nonprofits grow their brands. I also founded Green New Jersey Magazine back in 2018 and served as the chair for Sustainable Haddonfield for about 10 years. And of course, I'm a longtime member of Tri-County Sustainability. So before we get started, everyone just please put your name, town, and county in the chat. I think we're already doing that. That's great. We have an exciting program tonight, so let's get started. At TCS, we love to highlight local businesses, especially ones with a mission of sustainability. So please, everyone, put your virtual hands together and welcome Tina Solak, owner of the Refill Market in Haddon Township. Welcome, Tina. Please tell us about your journey from environmentalist to entrepreneur.
Okay. Can everyone hear me now? Sorry.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good, great. Okay. Sorry, I'm doing this from my phone. Okay, I think we're good now. Yep. Okay, great, thank you. So my name is Tina Solak. I'm the owner of the Refill Market in Haddon Township. And I have, I guess the initial question was, how did I get started? What made my journey from environmentalist to small business owner? And it's really, kind of grew up very environmentally aware. My parents were always very environmentally, maybe ahead of their time for the 70s and 80s. So it was always kind of like everything environmentally related, littering and I don't know, everything. Pollution always bothered me as I was growing up. And then I guess what got me into the business end of things was I read about a refill store up in Maplewood, New Jersey called Good Bottle. And I think at the time we had moms around to refill things, but this was kind of like really mind-blowing for me, the amount of things that you could refill at a refill store. So I really started because I really just wanted a place to shop for myself. And so I started looking into it. The pandemic hit and things kind of got put on hold a little bit and everything slowed down, but I kept going and I don't know, here we are. So, and it's been 3 years. I just passed my 3-year mark. So hooray, everyone's
wonderful.
Yeah, everyone's loving it. So it's I think I can show you. I'm here at my store. I would love to show people around for people who don't know what a refill store is. Let me see if I can do this. Maybe I can't. Okay, so I'll just try and go this way. Most of what I do is I sell soap in bulk, and you can bring in your own container to fill. Like it should be clean and dry, but you can fill up on. I have hand soap, dish soap, laundry detergent. Over here I have all kinds of personal care products, shampoo, body lotion. I have cleaning products for household cleaners. I have powdered laundry detergent. I have, you name it. I try and get it in bulk so you don't have to buy a new plastic bottle at the store every time you run out of something that you use on a daily basis. The other half of what I do is I sell more sustainable alternatives to single-use products that you find in your house, mostly in your kitchen and in your bathroom is where you produce a lot of waste. So alternatives to plastic sponges, food storage solutions that are plastic-free. And then here I have all kinds of personal care products that are, solid shampoos. I have a local soap maker. So, and all natural deodorants, that kind of thing. And then I guess the last thing that I thought I would tell you about is I do take a whole bunch of recycling that are hard to recycle products or hard to recycle items, Brita water filters. These are all TerraCycle programs that you are welcome to come in and drop off with me. Toothbrushes and toothpaste containers. If you have little people in your life, I take squeeze snack pouches and drink pouches, crayons, razors, all kinds of things. And that's the kind of the rundown for my shop. Everything is focused on reducing single-use plastics. And I guess that it was a good segue. I told Sean I was going to do a plug for Beyond Plastics New Jersey, which I am involved with. We are looking for members. If you'd like to join in the fight against single-use plastics, we would love to have you. We meet once a month also. And I know I saw Lois Krause is on here. She's one of the co-founders of the Beyond Plastics New Jersey chapter. So yeah, you can reach out to her or to me, and we would love to have you join our mission.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I have a question. What are some of your best sellers there at your shop?
Oh, okay. So for refillable items, hand soap, dish soap, and laundry detergent are the big three sellers. And we are, yeah, so I have a few different options for those, like with powder and like a laundry concentrate and just regular liquid laundry detergent. Those three things are, because I think those are things that people use on a regular basis and go through a lot of. So that's a really, if you can cut that one plastic bottle out of your life, that if for just one product, it makes a huge difference, I think.
Right, absolutely. So we have a question. How difficult was it for your bank to understand your vision for a sustainable retail store?
For my what to understand?
For your bank?
Oh, bank. I am fortunate enough I did not have to take out any loans or anything to start this business. So I don't have an answer for that question. But I will say that we need more of these shops. I feel like every neighborhood should have, like I do have some customers who drive half an hour to get to me, and they'll come once a month and they'll bring all their containers and they'll fill up on everything. But nobody should have to drive half an hour to be able to shop this way. And so I do feel like and I've helped I've had people reach out to me online and ask if for advice or for where did you get this soap? I want to open one of these stores. I am always happy to talk to anyone, tell them my story, and share information. I mean, as long as it's not, don't open across the street for me. But
right.
but I'm always happy to help because I really do believe that these stores need to be everywhere.
Right. Does anyone have any questions for Tina?
I'll ask you a question. Hey, Tina, this is Patrick from Sustainable Monroe Township. I really appreciate you giving us a tour of your store. It looks awesome. I have not been able to stop in myself yet, but I'm surely going to add that to my list. So thanks. But I was curious about your location. So you're right in between Collingswood and Haddon Township, two towns, of course, that are known as very sustainable communities. And I wondered, did that play some part in your choosing your location to open?
For sure, yeah. I'm actually right in between Haddonfield and Collingswood, and it was, again, during the pandemic, there weren't like a whole bunch of places to choose from, so it was kind of a little bit driven by that where I ended up. I do like my neighborhood. I would love to move my store to Collingswood because there's a lot more foot traffic there. But yeah, I think it was definitely a factor. Kind of when I did some market research, just who would my customers be? Yeah.
Awesome.
Collingswood. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions for Tina?
Hi, this is Isla. I actually have a comment, if I could, and maybe a little plug. I love visiting Tina's store, and I love using these little all-purpose home cleaner tablets. All you have to, they look like this. I don't know if I can, and there's 3 that come in a box. All you have to do is have a squirt bottle and add, let me see, I think it's 16 ounces of water, and they're perfect. So just a shout out for those. I love them.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tina. This has been great. We're all going to stop by the store. Congratulations. Please keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Everybody on the Zoom, all the information is in the chat. So please spread the word about Refill Market, share it on social media and wherever else you can get the word out.
Oh, yes. Please do follow me on Instagram at the Refill Market NJ.
Terrific. Now let's bring in Vicki Benetti to introduce our next guest. Hey, Vicki.
Hi, Lara, thank you so much. And Tina, how impressive. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a very special assignment this evening, and it's an easy one. It's to proudly introduce Dr. Dan Van Abs. Dan is one of, if not the, New Jersey leader in the field of watershed planning and management. He has 40 years of experience focused on water infrastructure, water supply, wastewater, and watershed protection. And that experience spans government, the private sector, and academia, and technical management, policy, and regulation. He has been recently cited as the special contributor to the 2024 New Jersey Water Supply Plan. Given the number of environmental commission members, public works employees, green team members, and people who drink water that we have here in our audience, we asked Dan to join us tonight to discuss why our South Jersey municipalities and counties must include sustainable water systems in their future planning. Dan, you have the floor.
All right, thanks very much, Becky. Appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen, so let me know if the should be seeing a full screen.
Looks great.
Okay, great.
So it's not full. It's not quite full.
Sorry, are you seeing my backgrounds, my next slide, or are you seeing?
I'm seeing your next slide too.
Okay, so let's switch. I
think you want presenter mode.
I'm in presenter mode, but it grabbed I have two screens. Let's see. This has happened before.
Well, we can read your first slide, and the typeface is real small on your next one, so we can't read that until you're ready to present it. So there you go.
There we go. Now it should be right.
Perfect.
I had to find the right thing. Okay, so I decided to start with a yogiism. The future ain't what it used to be. And when you're dealing with issues of climate change effects, global warming, whatever you want to call it, it really is a very applicable quote, because there was a time where we could look in the past and then we could project that past forward and say, well, the future is going to look very much like the past when it comes to water resources issues. That's no longer true. And that has very profound implications for our areas. So a little bit, this is the background that Vicki was talking about. I've been at this as a professional for 42 years. I started as a volunteer in high school 52 years ago. So I've been in the water resources field for a great long time. And I'm finally about to retire from Rutgers. So these are the things that I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly in hopes that we'll have some time for questions at the end. But I want to talk about these various challenges and then the implications of these challenges for community change. So let me start out with preparing for changes in flooding. In terms of sea level rise, which is going to affect the Delaware River area of all three of your counties, and a lot of other places, in New Jersey being a very coastal state. We're talking about, by the year 2100, a 50% chance of greater than a 3.3 foot increase in sea level, and a nearly 83% chance of greater than 2 feet. So that's pretty darn close to certainty. The models do keep on changing, and what we find is that the models keep on under anticipating what we're actually seeing in the environment. Well, that's a problem, obviously, because we do have a lot of coastal areas. And then on top of that, these sea level rise issues can be exacerbated by increased stream and river flows. So the expectation is, for instance, in the year 2100, a 10% probability storm, what people might call a 10-year storm. You know, the expectation is that on average, it happens once every 10 years. That's an additional 3 feet of flooding from sea level rise and the storms that are associated with the ocean storm. There are a lot of problems for this. Flooding of land, but also issues with regard to water infrastructure, because in our coastal areas, our stormwater outlets are to the open water. Where we have combined sewers, those discharge points are to open waters, and the higher those discharge waters are, or the higher the waters are, the more difficult it is to discharge anything into it, which means that all of that stormwater, all of those combined sewer flows back up even farther than they do today. And we're seeing this, by the way, in places like Miami Beach with their stormwater systems, and we're seeing them in a lot of other places. So I pulled 3 maps from New Jersey Flood Mapper. New Jersey Flood Mapper is a wonderful tool. I will admit it's from Rutgers, but it's still a wonderful tool, and you can set it for all sorts of different scenarios. In this case, this shows in the Paulsboro area, the area that would be expected to flood with a 3-foot increase in sea level by the year 2100, and a then additional 3 feet due to storm surge. And you can see that there are a number of places that are obviously residential streets that wind up being underwater in a situation like this. Camden City area, again, fairly sizable areas along the Delaware River and along Cooper River that could expect flooding from this kind of an event. And then up in the Burlington City area, you know, look at that. Look at all of these areas that would experience some level of flooding. Now, the lighter areas are less flooding, but still some. The darker areas are very significant flooding. We're talking about multiple feet of flooding here. So what's the issue? Well, first of all, we should recognize that floods are natural, but flood damages are not. Floods are natural. They will always happen. What the problem is, they're getting worse because of sea level rise, because of changing weather patterns, because we're getting more severe storms. Flood damages are caused by people because we put development in the wrong place. We put development at risk, and we've done so for centuries. We're only starting to get a little bit better at this. So the issue is that we put more stormwater into our streams, then that increases the height of the floods. The rainfall itself increases the height of the floods. Sea level rise increases the height of the floods. And then a storm surge on top of sea level rise means that we have even that much more damage from the storms. Flip it around. You know, I'm talking about too much water. Now let's talk about too little water. So I was very much involved in the latest draft of the statewide water supply plan, and DEP did a lot of really good work with regard to the whole issue of climate change and how it might affect water supplies. So if you haven't taken a look at it, please do, because it has very major implications for the coastal area. Let's start out with a key point is that our annual average precipitation in New Jersey has increased. But because of climate change, we're getting more swings in our weather patterns. And so the National Climate Assessment for the northeastern part of the state, of the country, indicates that we should expect more short but sharp droughts. You could call them nuisance droughts, but any drought is a problem. So we are going to have an issue with regard to that. And of course, development has had a long-term effect on our water supplies and will continue to. One of the critical things that people tend not to recognize is that when you look at stream flow in South Jersey, if you look at a natural stream, 80 to 90% of the water in that stream is not from runoff. It's from the flow of groundwater into the stream. And where did the groundwater come from? Well, it came from precipitation going onto the ground and then penetrating into the ground and becoming part of the groundwater. The more that we develop, the more we interrupt that process. And so as we have developed over a long period of time, what we've done is we've wound up increasing runoff drastically, tremendous increases in runoff. And that has all sorts of implications for stream damages and so on. We've also reduced the amount of water that has gone into the ground. Now, our current stormwater regulations are supposed to stop that from happening, but it's a big issue from past development. And let's face it, most of the development that New Jersey will have 30 years from now is already in the ground. So we've had significant problems from that perspective. And all of this runoff, of course, is taking pollutants with it and bringing those pollutants into our surface waters. So that's an issue. Another issue is that not only are we facing the possibility of more short-term droughts, but we use a lot of water and we don't use it all that well. So here's an example. This is a project that I published back in 2018, where I got water demand information for about 3.6 million people in the state of New Jersey. And we were able to figure out how much water do we use in annual, summertime, and the non-summer season. And what you can see here in the coastal plain, where you folks, where the three counties are, is that if you have high density development, you're talking about 53, 54 gallons per person per day on average in high density. Medium density, a little bit higher, but look at this for low density. And what do I mean by low density? I mean like half-acre lots. So what's the difference? Grass. New Jersey's #1 crop by far is grass. And so in South Jersey, we use a lot of water maintaining lawns and so on, much more than in the Central Jersey area and far more than in the North Jersey area. So all of these issues are out there. Switch again. So I've talked now about too much water, too little water, and now it's too much, too little quality is basically what it comes down to. So pollutants. And what we find, New Jersey is a highly developed state, very densely populated, and then a lot of agriculture in areas that are not densely populated. And the result is that nearly every watershed in the entire state violates the surface water quality standards for at least one pollutant. And you can see this map over on the left-hand side to get a sense of that. So the major issues that we hit, pathogens, bacteria, and so on, nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, especially phosphorus, and some others that are a big issue. And then we have the drinking water quality challenges. So people are probably well aware of the issue with lead and lead pipes. We now have a law that says by, I guess it's the year 2031, all of the lead pipes in New Jersey are supposed to be out of the ground, which will be great, but that's only one issue. Now we're dealing with PFAS issues, and Environmental Working Group came out with this map using EPA information. All of these light blue dots are indicating drinking water supplies that have PFAS. These are the forever chemicals. PFAS levels greater than EPA's PFAS standards that have just been recently put out. So that's going to be a high cost issue. And then, of course, we have all of the other industrial legacy contaminants that we're dealing with. So that's going to be a big issue. And finally, aging water infrastructure. You can have all of the water in the world, but if your infrastructure is constantly breaking down and you can't get it to the people, to the customers, then you have a problem. So we have this issue in New Jersey because we are an older, developed state. We were an early industrial area. We were an early urban area because we were one of the 13 original colonies. We were an early suburbanizing state, and all of these issues are facing us. So I wanted to show you a couple of maps. On the left, these are the sewer service areas in the state, and you can see that sewer service is not everywhere. We have large areas of the state that have no sewer service. Same thing with drinking water supply. On the right-hand side, these are the areas of public community water systems and the areas they serve. And once again, it doesn't cover the entire state. So we have large areas that are on domestic wells. But when you come right down to people, 90% of the people in the state of New Jersey get their drinking water from a public community water system. That system can be owned by the public, by a government entity, or it can be owned by a private entity, like an investor-owned utility, New Jersey American, for instance, especially in your county, in the 3 counties. The key point here is that just 13 of these systems supply 50% of all customers in the state of New Jersey, and just 37 supply 80%. And then there are 547 other systems that supply the other 20% of the state. So most of our systems are really tiny. That's an issue, because with all of these costs coming down for lead service line removal and PFAS and this, that, and the other thing, it's really tough for small systems to manage that. So there's a sustainability issue right there. Are they financially sustainable? Are they sustainable from a management perspective, and so on? And you're dealing with everything from where the water comes from, especially, or a river intake, to the treatment plant, out into the distribution mains, and then out to the customers. And these things are sometimes 2 and 3 different owners, which makes things a little bit complicated as well. Sewer systems works much the same way. Roughly 90% of all New Jersey residents are served by public sewers, and the other 10% are on septic systems. We have over 200 sewage treatment plants. Just 4 of them cover 50% of the flows from into sewage treatment plants, none of which are down in the Southwest Jersey area, but Camden County MUA, Gloucester County MUA are pretty far up there. So they're part of the 22 that constitute, again, 80% of the total flow. And then a bunch of little tiny systems, same issues. So you have the collection systems, you have the sewage treatment plant. In the case of Camden City and Gloucester City, you have something special, and that I'll talk about in a moment. So what's the issue here? Well, the problem is all of these pipes in the ground, the moment they go in the ground, they start aging. And it is inevitable that sooner or later, they will wind up needing either to be retrofit or replaced. So in historic urban areas, the tendency was to use these very large, thick pipes. They last on the average of 100 to 120 years. Well, that's basically where we are. Suburban areas use different pipes, different construction, different materials. They are seen to last about 50 to 70 years, which is right about now. So what are we seeing? We're seeing a lot of line breaks in the drinking water side and also on the sewer side. And that is going to cost a ton of money to deal with, in addition to the combined sewer overflow issue that Camden and Gloucester City have. So these were, when these combined sewers were built originally, this was modern technology. This was the way to do things, to get both the sewage and the stormwater out of the city as fast as possible. And there was no such thing as a sewage treatment plant. Then we connected to sewage treatment plants, but those sewage treatment plants can't handle those flows during storm periods. And so we dump a bunch of raw sewage into our rivers, and if we're unlucky, into our streets and basements as well. So it raises the question of, what sort of capacity do we have in these areas? And these are the maps, by the way, for the Camden area, to give you a sense of where these combined sewers actually exist. So let's bring it down to all of this to deal with it. So floods happen, droughts happen, pollution happens, infrastructure ages, and development ages. So all of the buildings that we have built, again, are going to age and either need to be maintained, retrofitted, or replaced. And we're seeing more and more of this. Old strip malls that have gone out of style are being replaced by new building and so on. So the point I want to make is if we dealt with each single one of these issues as if it was not related to any of the other issues, we are not going to have sustainable communities. We need to deal with these issues in concert. And so the question is, do we just react to things as they happen, or do we plan for our communities so that we can project forward and say, this is what we need to deal with, this is how we need to deal with it, and this is how we're going to make our community a sustainable community. I will tell you, we cannot have sustainable communities if all we do is replace what we have with what we have. We need to be improving. We need to be forward thinking. We need to be a bit visionary in terms of how we modify our communities to deal with some of these issues. And so one of the critical issues that I pose to you is that redevelopment is a tool for resilience, sustainability, and social equity if it is used properly, if it is planned for, and not just reacted to site by site by site by site by site. Okay. So somebody needs to turn off their mic. We're getting there we go. Thank you. So one of the things that I would recommend to every community is that they look at where they want to be in 30, 50 years. You know, why do I harp on the year 2100? Well, the things that we build this decade, many of them will still be in existence. The sewer pipes, the water pipes, they'll still be in existence in 2100. So we need to plan that far in advance to understand what we need. And so what part could water and the mitigation of these water challenges play in that vision? And can it all work forever? So when we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about forever. We don't plan that way. We plan for the next decade, the next couple of decades. But we need to think differently. So let me just focus on one issue for a moment, and that is the whole issue of sea level rise and flood resilience and so on. We should recognize that sea level rise is a game changer for our
I'm trying to switch
coastal areas. And so let's talk about the equity issues. It's inequitable to have people stay in major hazard areas where they're getting flooded over and over and over again. Or if sea level rise is big enough over time, where essentially they've got standing water there all the time. That's inequitable. But it's also inequitable to force people to leave. So we need to evaluate benefits and costs and understand what our options are. This requires community design, not one-off projects. Not, well, let's do this here and then stop. We need to deal with issues of social equity. We need to deal with issues of community structure. We need to understand how managed retreat from flooded areas is going to be connected to managed redevelopment. And we need to recognize that a lot of the people who are in these very flood-prone areas may be renters. So there's an equity issue there in terms of who benefits, who loses with regard to these kinds of issues. And just as a conceptual thought, think about an area where we know they're going to be underwater by the year 2100. Well, that gives us 75 years to plan and act in order to deal with that issue, because it's not going to happen all at once. It will happen gradually. So we can deal with managed risk reduction and retreat over a significant period of time. But if all we do is this, dealing with the high hazard area, we've failed, because people need to have a place to go. And so that means compensating redevelopment. It could be restoration of abandoned homes to create units that aren't an additional unit. They're just a revised unit, rehabilitated unit. Affordable housing projects, they're going up all over the place. My community has 5 of them going up right now. Almost every single one of them is a redevelopment situation where office complexes and so on, parking lots are being changed to affordable housing projects. They're looking great. Mixed use redevelopment of commercial and office areas, and accessory dwelling units where people can tag on a new development or new dwelling unit to an existing dwelling unit. All of these are options. You would never use all of them in every situation, but they are available. So what does all come down to? It talks about, we're dealing with community planning with water, making sure that we have enough water supply and wastewater capacity, even dealing with climate change impacts, reducing water demands. Redevelopment is great from that perspective. It tends to wind up using less water than what was there before. Improving our stormwater management situation, dealing with the hazardous locations, as I mentioned, increasing water-related recreational amenities, giving people access to the rivers and so on, and improving urban areas for existing residents and businesses so that everybody benefits from this process. So the idea is to bring water into communities, use water well, recognize that this is a natural thing. We don't have to be afraid of water, but we do have to manage it. And green infrastructure, I'm sure you've talked about and heard about. So as I have used in many years, it's the vision thing. As opposed to the anti-vision thing where we just watch everything fall apart. We can't afford to do that. It's going to be expensive to do it right. It will be far more expensive to do it wrong. And I think we need to recognize that and adjust for that. So this is my contact information. I know some of it is already posted, but that's what I have for you tonight. And if we have time for some questions, let's do it.
Dan, thank you. That was an excellent overview. Really appreciate that. We do have time for a few questions, and we have a few questions that have already been posted in the chat. And we've got one from Emmett McNair. He wonders, is desalination an option for potential or eventual drinking water shortages in New Jersey?
Okay. So New Jersey has desalination in 2 places, Cape May City and in Keansburg in Monmouth County. The upshot of the water supply plan is that because of improved water using devices in homes and so on, because of the shift in our industrial mix in New Jersey, and because of an increased attention on asset management, we expect the water demand per person to continue going down. It's already been going down for the last several decades. We expect it to continue going down. And even with population increase in New Jersey, we expect that our demands are going to be lower in the year 2050 than they are right now. That's a good thing. And the DEP, in its analysis of water availability, feels that there are some places where we have overused groundwater resources, or it appears that we have overused groundwater resources. So some of these require more study. And you can see where these are in the new water supply plan. But we're in pretty good shape. We're in pretty good shape. The things that are concern from the water supply plan, one is with sea level rise, we will actually have some places where wells will be covered with the ocean. The sea level rise will be to the point where by 2100, there will be places where wellheads will be underwater. And so clearly we have to deal with that well before that point. So those are all the issues, but I don't really expect desal to be a major issue. We can accomplish far more by reducing water losses from breaking water mains and so on than desal would ever provide for us.
Thank you. I love the point about reducing water losses, which makes me ask the question, in terms of asset management, is that a very serious movement in New Jersey?
So on the drinking water side, we have the Water Quality Accountability Act, which was passed in 2017, and it requires every single public community water system of greater than, I think it's 500 customers, to have an asset management plan to identify their high priority projects to improve their assets and to tell the DEP what they've spent in the last 3 years, what they're going to spend in the next 3 years. So this starts giving us a really solid idea of who's spending what and for what reason. On the drinking water side, I expect asset management to move forward. What pushes against that? Affordability issues. And so we need, as a state, to deal with affordability issues. And I've been working on that issue with New Jersey Future and Jersey Waterworks. So if you're interested in that issue, you can go on to jerseywaterworks.org. It's all strung together, jerseywaterworks.org. And there is a study on affordability, and there's a lot of discussion about that. So asset management there, absolutely. On the wastewater side, asset management is really going to be moving forward with regard to the combined sewer systems. So they're going to spend a ton of money over the next 30 years dealing with their combined sewer overflows. On the other wastewater utilities, there's not much as much of a forcing mechanism. So that's where we need to do some work.
Okay. We have a question from Renata Barnes. How much is community education a part of this? Informing the public, particularly those who are in more vulnerable communities.
Right. So when it comes to the issue, for instance, of future flooding and flood risk and so on, if the communities that are being affected are not thoroughly, and I mean thoroughly, engaged in the process, then we're doing it wrong. They have to be, because these communities work because of the relationship that people have to each other, to local businesses, and so on. And if you damage that, you can do a lot of harm to people as individuals and to the community as a whole. So the folks who are affected by these issues have to be up front and center, routinely involved, routinely engaged, routinely helping to devise the solutions, because otherwise it isn't going to work. So yes, public community education, but not just education. If we stop at education, we haven't done enough. Engagement, even leadership, making sure that people are able to voice their needs, their desires, what's critical to them, and have that be part of the planning process.
One more question on the sort of immediate household level. You mentioned that lead pipe removal is important and it's ongoing and is on the fast track, whatever that means these days, but certainly faster than it's been. But the question is, aren't PVC pipes also problematic?
So I don't know enough about that to say when you come right down to it. Some lead pipes are being replaced by copper pipes. And so that wouldn't raise the issue of PVC. I just had some plumbing work done in my house, and they're using yet a different substance that is not PVC, but is supposed to be better. And frankly, I cannot remember what they said it was. So I'm no expert when it comes to these kinds of pipe materials, but I can tell you that the use of lead service lines was a massive con by the lead industry and by municipalities that simply wanted to have everything work easily. We never should have been using lead for the last century or more. We knew that it was a problem. So Yeah, we have to be careful about what we use to replace it, but keeping lead, there's no excuse for the use of lead in water supply systems.
Well, thank you. I'm afraid our time is up at this point. We do have a few more questions, and is it possible for folks to send messages to you?
Oh, absolutely.
And directly and questions and.
Yep. And I'm seeing a couple of other messages.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll stick on for a few minutes and try to respond to some of those.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so very much.
Oh, no. Okay, great.
This has been so enlightening, and it makes us realize just one more thing we've got to look at holistically. Thank you. Thanks for your time, and thanks for the benefit of all the work that you've done. Okay, well, that was great. A little bit challenging, but now let's turn to Patrick McDevitt, who's going to introduce our next guest.
So citizens have the right to do government business, and every environmental advocate needs to know how to exercise that right. And the next tool gives access to public records pretty easily. So what you're looking at is another screenshot. It's from something called Oprah Machine. So if you wanted a document from a public agency, you could always ask for it in person or try to find a form on the agency's website. But this site called Oprah Machine makes it really easy. Oprah stands for Open Public Records Act, and Oprah Machine gives you access to all public agencies in New Jersey. But it's no mere online form. It comes with pre-filled wording and drop-down lists of public agencies. It will send you an email when your request gets a response, and will even archive your requests for future reference. Super easy, really. And it's like an online form on steroids. I used it recently to request the soil grading plan of a construction project in town. I received via email a PDF file of a multi-page site plan that included the info I needed to see. And
Okay, we cut that video off a little earlier tonight, so we just wanted to be able to show it again. So thank you, Vicki. So we wanted to talk a little bit more about New Jersey's Open Public Records Act, OPRA. It is a vital tool for sustainability and transparency. And so last week, both chambers of the New Jersey legislature voted to pass a bill that guts OPRA, rolling back decades of progress in providing access to records on the local, county, and state levels. So we wanted to welcome in the policy director at the American Civil Liberties Union of New Jersey, Sarah Fajardo. Sarah, can you tell us more about this story and what we could do about it?
Sure. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm so excited to be here tonight and really, really grateful to catch the end of the last presentation. That was fantastic. We're really concerned about the attacks on democracy in the form of rollbacks to the Open Public Records Act and our access to government records in New Jersey. But before I dive in, I'll give you a little bit of context. My name is Sarah Fajardo. I am the policy director for the last 5 years. I've been serving as the policy director for the American Civil Liberties Union of New Jersey. We're based in Newark, but we are a statewide organization with connections to our national office and national experts. The ACLU-NJ has over 40,000 members and growing. And I'm recognizing some partner faces and partner names on the screen. So it's really great to be in community with folks doing really incredible work. ACLU-NJ has been doing legal work for decades. We've been doing work in the courts. And in the last few decades, we've done more and more policy work. One of the major areas of work that we've undertaken really since the beginning of OPRA was helping shape the original bills and really tracking and trying to modernize OPRA over the last 2 decades in partnership with many folks in the legislature, many community leaders. OPRA is several decades old as a law. We've all made great technological strides since it was first passed, and it really does deserve an update. The legislative sponsors of this bill have been selling their bill as an update, but the ACLU of New Jersey and many, many other advocates, community leaders, and community members who are familiar with Oprah, as we saw from that last short video, you know, New Jerseyans use Oprah to get critical information that we all are legally allowed to access from our government. It helps keep up with planning processes. It helps us keep up with budget issues. It helps us keep up with, you know, I'm doing a lot of work on the criminal legal front, so keeping up with criminal legal issues that are happening at the state, municipal, and even more local levels. So I don't think I have to convince this group of the importance of Oprah, but it really is some of the bedrock law and bedrock access that not only lawyers and advocates and community activists use, but our press uses this, researchers use Oprah. It's absolutely critical to knowing what's happening behind closed doors in the government, but also holding folks accountable and being able to have a voice, right, in how government is functioning. We've heard a lot in the press about how onerous fulfilling Oprah requests can be. And a big point that the ACLU has tried to ask is, you know, instead of, you know, restricting access as this set of bills does, can we instead really invest in local infrastructure to improve access to okay, I hope someone's okay over there. And so I'm going to go through a couple points of the bill that ACLU of New Jersey has found troubling, but really just to zoom out, this bill has been a big fight with the legislature. Many folks have been weighing in, trying to make sure that the bill doesn't limit public access to records. It's still, as it was passed a few weeks ago through the legislature, it still contains some really, really harmful provisions that'll go through, and it's now on the governor's desk. So Governor Murphy has to make a choice soon, within the next 30 days, I believe. It's been at least a week that it's been on his desk. Time has been totally collapsed for me at this point because it's been all Oprah all the time. But so he still has a few weeks to make a decision, and we anticipate a decision any day now. He could, in the first instance, veto the bill. So he could send it back to the legislature, say, I'm absolutely not signing this. It's not, I can't put my signature on this, so reject it. And then they would have to start over. He could conditionally veto the bill, which would include, you know, strike out edits. He has the power to provide edits to a bill. And then the legislature would have the option of passing his version back through their process and land that version on his desk. Or he could sign the bill as is. There's immense political pressure about this issue. The vote count at the end of the day was extremely tight in both the Senate and the Assembly. It passed by one vote in each house, to the point where some senators, some Assembly people actually changed their vote after the final vote to a no. So the margins narrowed after the final vote. Yes, we've heard of personal pressure that has been applied to folks related to this bill, and we know that there's a lot of challenges related to Oprah outstanding. So if it's okay for folks, I'm going to go through some of ACLU's biggest concerns, and then I'm happy to open it up to questions, feedback. I know that Oprah can be a contentious issue, so I'm anticipating that, you know, there are pain points in Oprah processes, but it's what we have, and it's one of the major tools of government accountability. So a big point of contention in this entire process has been a provision in Oprah. It's really the enforcement mechanism that allows any New Jerseyan to challenge an improper rejection for an Oprah request. So if I, Sarah Fajardo, submit an Oprah request that I'm legally able to access that information, my submission was proper, you know, there's an avenue for me to challenge my municipal government. I can find an attorney to take up my case pro bono. And the enforcement mechanism is really that the attorney, if they win the case, they will be entitled to attorney's fees. They'll be entitled to be paid for their time. If they don't win the case, they don't get the fees. But this is really the only method that's really practicable for folks to, in real time, challenge improper requests and have them actually be fulfilled. And we've seen time and again that there are improper requests that have been denied that you really do need to go to court. So, you know, ACLU of New Jersey, we submit a number of OPRA requests, not on a regular basis, but every once in a while we'll submit an OPRA request. Many have been denied. We'll try requesting again and really try to work with the clerk's office to see if we can, you know, get to a place where they're willing to give us the information. But occasionally we have to work with attorneys to take the case forward and actually sue to get the records. We have attorneys on staff that are able to do that work. But, you know, an everyday New Jerseyan who is not themselves an attorney or doesn't have access to an attorney, a pro bono attorney could, if they think that your case is winnable, they could take it up because they'll be entitled to fees. The bill removes the requirement for attorneys to be able to actually recoup their fees. And so we have a real concern that this will have a chilling effect for folks, specifically attorneys, to take up cases. And so we may not see cases that actually could be winnable and were really improperly denied. Like somebody really actually deserves and should be getting that information, but they were rejected improperly. They may not get a lawyer. And with filing fees in the couple $100 range in many of the courts in our state, that can be out of reach for folks who need information but are not able to front a filing fee or front an attorney fee out of their own pocket. So that's a big issue. And it's been framed in the media and by some legislators occasionally as, you know, this is like a money grab for lawyers who charge really excessive rates. And that happens rarely. There sometimes are pretty significant OPRA fees, OPRA attorney's fees, but in most instances, it's not the case that they're extraordinary or excessive. So that's really our first concern. Additionally, there are a couple provisions in the bill that we're also really concerned that they will chill OPRA requests. So one is the bill now allows agencies to sue requesters. It would allow government agencies to sue requesters for seeking records with the intent to substantially interrupt the performance of government function. So what's the issue? Substantially interrupt is a vague and undefined standard. ACLU has concerns that government agencies could readily weaponize that term to retaliate against requesters, and that this would chill legitimate requests, as I mentioned. Providing government agencies with this tool will discourage OPRA requests, as people may be concerned that they could be sued just for making their requests. So that's a real concern for us, and that still is in the bill. Additionally, the bill makes changes about the way the fees for processing OPRA requests are challenged under the Open Public Records Act. So under current law, government agencies have the burden to prove that the fees or service charges that they charge us are reasonable. The current language in the bill that just passed, shifts the burden onto the requester to prove that the fees are unreasonable. So, I'm gonna have to grab a glass of water. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Take your time. While she's getting her water, we'll remind you that we did put our legislators' voting record in the chat. And as with all these issues, it would be helpful if you wanted to contact your local legislator and tell them how you feel about this issue. So we'd appreciate that. We did share Sarah's info in the chat as well. No worries at all.
Thank you. I'm having like allergy stuff, so apologies. Sorry, Patrick, did you want to finish your sentence?
No, I'm just saying we shared your info in the chat and we're urging everyone to contact their local legislators about this as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll share some resources in the chat in just a moment. So we're talking about shifting the burden to prove that fees are unreasonable, which is pretty outrageous unless you have special information about, why a fee is or is not unreasonable. It would take a lot of work. It would take a lot of expertise to actually prove that an agency's fee is unreasonable. So this was a very strange shift in the bill that we have concerns that it's going to be really tough to challenge fees now. And I'll go through a little bit faster because I know that this is a lot of detail for folks, but the bill also makes it more difficult to send a request to multiple agencies. So it makes it more difficult to send the same request to multiple agencies and allows agencies to deny a request on this basis. So if I send a request to DEP and the same request to a more local agency, they could just deny both requests. That's our read of the language, which makes it really tough if you're looking for information. You don't know which custodian exactly has it. One agency may deny it. Sometimes another agency is more open and has a better process for OPRA, and so it's more likely that you'll get a request. So it just gums up the works. And it also is going to increase the number of denials of requests. And so then, folks are going to have to submit again. It's just going to make things even more complicated and even more delayed for actual flow of information out. The last real point that I'll talk about is that the level of specificity required in requests is much more detailed than currently is required. The language in the bill requires that all requests for email, mail, texts identify both a specific subject matter and a specific time period, in addition to the precise job title and accounts to be searched. Additionally, the language in the bill as ACLU reads it exempts email logs, which has been a really important tool for us to narrow our OPRA requests. I'm going to cough one more time. So for instance, ACLU would occasionally request email logs from government officials or government agencies to avoid having to burden custodians with the full email request that we actually want. It helps us hone in on the actual email conversation that we're looking for, so we don't have to overburden the clerks. And so some of these provisions, specifically the amount of information that's now required when you're submitting an OPRA request, just raises the burden on New Jerseyans and the press and researchers to have foreknowledge of what you're looking for, right down to the title of the government representative that you're looking for information related to. So these are some of the concerns. Additionally, the ACLU has been advocating for a long time for additional access to police disciplinary records. That was absolutely not included in the bill. There's a lot of confusion about metadata and very unclear language about how metadata is going to be treated under OPRA now. There's a lot of difficult language about how to treat records created, maintained, or received by other agencies. So if I submit an OPRA request that might be held by one agency, but it was created by another agency, my request could be denied. And I may or may not know why, right? Like I may or may not understand that it's because, DOJ created this record, but it's held in another agency that I'm OPRAing. So it's going to make everything more complicated, is the bottom line. And a lot of us use this tool frequently in work, frequently to understand what's happening on the ground in our communities. And it's deeply, deeply concerning for our democracy. So my ask and ACLU's ask is that folks consider contacting the governor. I'm going to put a number of options on how to do that in the chat. But first, I'll put my name and my email address. ACLU has an email action option that I'll put in. There's also a phone line that you could call the governor and say something as simple as, please veto, the bill numbers are in here, or veto the bill related to Oprah that's on your desk. You could, if you don't want to make a call, you could text him. We do now have texting capability with the governor's office. And let me get the email up. But I'm happy to answer questions if folks have them.
That was really good information, and we appreciate you sharing. We really do also appreciate the work that you and the ACLU are doing on this issue. So we do certainly encourage everyone to get in touch with our governor and let him know where we stand. We certainly want open public records and access to them for our needs as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And please call on us whenever you need us. The ACLU is excited to be in touch with all of you. So thank you for your time, and thanks for engaging on this.
Great. So happy to have you. Thank you. So next up, another important issue we've been following. As everyone probably knows, we're big fans of transit here at Tri-County Sustainability. So there is a pending New Jersey transit fare hike. So we do have Eric Benson from New Jersey Policy Perspective here, and he's going to tell us about efforts to expand funding for essential services, especially for communities that have historically been left behind, and how we can help. Hello, Eric.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me tonight. No stranger to this meeting, and what an incredible group of folks we have here. I've loved seeing the Oprah team in action, so thanks for everyone taking action, and Sarah speaking on that tonight. My name is Eric Benson, longtime environmentalist, 20 years working with Clean Water Action. I'm also experienced retired Essex County Environmental Commissioner for over 10 years. And now I'm a tax and budget policy advocate working with a statewide coalition called For the Many New Jersey. And it's a broad-based group of housing, environmental, labor, social justice, and more advocates working together to make sure our state has the revenue to invest in critical infrastructure and community support programs. I'm also a dad with 2 little kids who participate in our weekly town's bike bus movement, and they also love seeing and riding on NJ Transit. So this month of June, it's a wild ride ahead as the New Jersey legislature and governor race towards a constitutional deadline of passing a balanced budget by June 30th. And I see the state budget as a moral document. How you raise and how you spend what's projected to be about $55 billion. They do that annually. But how you do that is a reflection of our state's moral values. And what we're doing is problem number 1. On December 31st, the governor and the legislature allowed the corporate business tax surcharge to expire. And that was an annual tax cut of over $1 billion to wealthy corporations that earned over $1 million in profits while operating in New Jersey. And that decision has far-reaching implications on our communities, as it drains our state, our towns, of the resources that we need to fund schools, roads, and municipal services in our towns. Problem number 2, without stable funding and with the federal pandemic aid about to expire, New Jersey Transit is facing roughly $800 million budget deficit, and that's even after the agency approved 15% fare hikes earlier this year. $800 million gets New Jersey Transit back to status quo, which currently is an agency. It's not winning hearts and minds of riders for current service. It's not equally accessible in all parts of the state. It has a beautiful sustainability plan and not enough money to implement it. So in light of these developments, I'm looking for your help and support. We're urging Governor Murphy and state legislators to reinstate a tax for wealthy corporations and dedicate that revenue to New Jersey Transit. A well-funded and better operating mass transit system can be a lifeline for low-income households, a catalyst for growing our towns, and downtowns, and of course, a crucial ally in the fight against climate change. So to kill two birds with one stone, metaphorically only, I am pro-bird. Governor Murphy proposed earlier this year something called the corporate transit fee. It's a solid first step. It targets 600 corporations that file taxes in New Jersey with profits that exceed $10 million. And it's projected to generate about $1 billion in revenue annually. And then the governor earmarks that for New Jersey Transit. The governor's proposal, it asks the world's biggest corporations to pay for infrastructure that help them generate the record-breaking profits. And in light of the 15% regressive fare hikes that riders are facing on July 1st, it's only fair that wealthy corporations are paying what they owe in order to keep New Jerseyans moving. So I got a lot that you can do. I'm going to copy and paste some of these links into the chat here. But of course, contacting your local legislators in support of taxing wealthy corporations in order to help fund New Jersey Transit. That's on an individual basis. Your letter goes to the governor, your local legislators, and key budget deciders like the members on the budget committee. Senator Paul Sarlo is chair of the Senate Budget and Appropriations, Assemblywoman Pinta Marin. They're not yours, but they are very much have a seat at the table deciding this before the end of June. You can also ask your mayor. We have a sign-on letter from mayors. I know that environmental commissions and green teams are close allies with your local township and officials, and getting mayors to sign on to our letter often represent not just your individual voice, but 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40,000 members of your community. The mayor sign-on letter, it's a template. You can copy, paste it, and send it off to your mayor. It's got a link to the letter for mayors to sign on. We also, just in general, because we are moving fast and quick here, I promise. I have a volunteer form. Because we're short on time tonight, there's a long-term effort to make sure wealthy corporations hold them accountable, make sure that our state has the needs, whether it be for affordable housing. I think about the environment, the rising floodwaters, the infrastructure that we need for green energy. There's no shortage of needs on the environment alone. And so there's a short and long-term campaign. That's for the many that I'm working with. And you can put your contact information in there, and I'll follow up with it one-on-one. What would you like to do now? And would you like to be part of the bigger time picture? June 13th, we're hosting a date from one end of the Northeast Corridor to another, rallying with mayors in Newark, with advocates in the State House in Trenton. So 9:30 a.m. on June 13th, from one end of the Northeast Corridor to another. If you're available and like to show up at either, we'd love to have you. And then my last little pitch here is the New Jersey Policy Perspective team has been incredible and amazing. I work with folks that are familiar to you. Alex Ambrose is our climate and transportation policy analyst. Peter Chen is my all things numbers budget cruncher. And we do have an award-winning communications team as well. So you can like and follow them on there. And I'll put my information in the chat, but I am open to any questions.
Great information. Thank you a lot for sharing that, Eric. And please feel free to continue to send us any of these action alerts that we can share out as well. So appreciate your work on this important topic. So it is 8:17. So we are going to offer folks to do a quick lightning round. If anybody has another topic that they wanted to let us know about, you're welcome to raise your hand in the Zoom, and we'll call on you, and you can have a minute or two to tell us about what activities you're involved in. I see Mr. David Steinberg raising his hand. Please take yourself off mute and tell us the latest with you, Mr. David.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This has been another fascinating time learning about all kinds of things here. But what I want to share with everybody is that I'm chair of the Helping Towns Committee for Tri-County Sustainability. And I have several mentors that are working with other towns to help them become certified. And we need some more volunteers. So if any of you have any
it looks like you muted yourself, David.
Okay, sorry about that.
Better. Yep.
Yeah, if anybody has a need to volunteer to help other towns become certified, I want to hear from you. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat, and love to hear from you good folks. That's it. On the next one.
Great. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Is Rob Elderhurst available? Okay.
Not seeing Rob.
He must have dropped off.
I see no other. Oh, there's Lauren. We'll give her a few minutes to talk to us. Go ahead, Lauren.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm on my phone, so I'm not sure how to like put the camera on and everything.
No worries.
I just wanted to say I don't really have any announcements or anything. I'm Lauren Skronsky from Sustainable Jersey. I just wanted to commend you all on tonight's meeting. This was great topics, another successful meeting, and you guys continue to be a model for, all the hubs across the state, with everything you're doing and the meetings that you put together. These are fantastic, wonderful resources. So thank you.
Thank you for those kind words, and we appreciate it, and always nice to have you on our meeting as well. So thank you. And without seeing any more hands raised, I'm thinking it's 8:20. I mean, can we give people 10 minutes back to their night, which is very uncharacteristic of us, but we could end early for once in a blue moon. All right, everyone, we're going to call it for tonight. Thank you all for coming in. We appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on social media. I do see Joan waving. I don't know if you're waving goodbye or if you wanted to have something to say.
I was waving goodbye.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, we're going to call it then for tonight. Thank you all again. Look for us on social media and Discord, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.